Let me do this. Shout out to Dr. Chief. I'm about to hold on. Let me move, man. I want you guys to be distracted. Let me turn this brightness up a little bit. I don't like my screen too bright because it's not good for your eyes long term. Oh, it's a little better. All right, cool enough. TikTok, what up? What up? What up? Thanks for checking in. This is your Wednesday edition of Coach Class with Coach. We got some good stuff to get into today, and we are not going to rush this, man. If you are interested in developing a better relationship with yourself, you are in the right place, because this is a part of unit number 2, building a better relationship with yourself. You know, we're not taught that from a young age, unfortunately. We don't start learning about that stuff until we get older, unfortunately. But as Brother Kevin Hart often says, you're going to learn today. Couple quick announcements. Again, the gallery that tells your story, check us out on YouTube. The gallery that tells your story, where we talk about life, relationships, family, experiences, and we line them up with what the Bible says about it, because that's all that really matters. So, yeah, check it out. The gallery that tells your story on YouTube, if you haven't already. I definitely would like to get your feedback. All right. Also available on Amazon and Kindle. You hear me say this every week, and if you follow me here on TikTok or on Facebook or IG, you see we try to make sure we post every day. The Invisible Marriage is on sale. That was my third book project. Check it out on Amazon or Kindle. It is available right now for purchase. Doesn't cost you that much either. I definitely want your feedback on that. My second book project, which I had the opportunity and privilege to do with my lovely wife, Forsaking All Others. That is a part of Aiden's journey. That is available for purchase. Be on the lookout for my next book project, which is called Intersections. It should be out in a couple months. Stay tuned. My first book project is also for sale. I did, and it didn't. Sounds like a very unique title, doesn't it? Check it out, man. You might like it, you might love it. And my wife's awesome poetic novel on her experiences with domestic violence, 50 Shades of She, is available on Amazon. So check it out. Again, this is Coach Classes with Coach, or Coach Class with Coach. We're here every Wednesday from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I will be doing a replay tomorrow at 8 p.m. We'll be replaying on Facebook and on YouTube. So check that out, just in case you missed it, or, in case you get to come in for a little bit and then you got to check out, just letting you know that the replay is going to be out there tomorrow at 8 p.m. If you are a man or a woman of the scriptures, every Sunday I'm here, 12 p.m. We are walking through the book of Hebrews. We are on Hebrews chapter 6 at or around verses 12 through 14. We are doing a verse by verse Bible study on Hebrews. So if you want to know what the Bible means by what it says, feel free to join us every Sunday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time from 12 to 1. And also, we have merchandise for sale. Gallery that tells your story in black and purple is for sale with an inspiring message on the back. We have John 8:24 t-shirts for sale, and we have self-love over self-destruction shirts for sale. So if you're interested, give me a shout. Give me a call, man. I'm at 443-785-7010. That's 443-785-7010. Or shoot me a text. We live in a text world. Text is 443-762-6010. That's 443-762-6010. Yeah, shoot me a text. If you're interested in some of the merchandise, if you want to be coached, if you want to become a coach, give me a shout, man. Or send me a direct message, all right? Fair enough. Let's get into the quote of the day. I'm going to share my screen. Let's look at this. Let's check this out. This quote is by Stephen Covey, Covey. I like this. All right. And it says, self-awareness involves deep personal honesty. It comes from asking and answering hard questions. I'll read that again. Self-awareness involves deep personal honesty. It comes from asking and answering hard questions. All right. Self-awareness. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Self-awareness. And if you are following me outside of TikTok here, or any channel that is streaming on, let me go to the whiteboard. Hopefully this is the one. I have two whiteboards I'm working with here. Not this one. But I want to pose a question. Let me go to my second whiteboard. The question is, did I click this one last time? Hold on. Is it? Hold on. Trying to see. Yeah, here we go. Self-awareness, again, here's the quote. Self-awareness involves deep personal honesty. It comes from asking and answering hard questions. The question that I have for you all is, which hard questions were you asked that provoke more self-awareness? Which hard questions were you asked that provoked more self-awareness? If you guys were on last week or the week before last, I'm very open and transparent with my experiences. One hard question that I was asked at a time that I could not answer it, and my wife at the time asked me, why am I the way I am? So she said, why are you like that? And what she was talking about specifically is the fact that I would after becoming frustrated, annoyed, pissed off, I would shut down totally. I would have no conversation whatsoever. I would be, uh, I would isolate myself. We call it the man cave, but sometimes that could be a place that harbors toxins. Sometimes it could be a place where, you know, if you're involved in what I deem to be emotional abuse, that's what being silent towards your partner is. You're silent over time and your partner is trying to talk to you and you don't have any feedback, you're not saying anything. That is a form of emotional abuse. And I'm not talking about situations where, somebody's trying to intentionally get under your skin. I'm talking about, uh, and let me break it down this way. I'm giving you guys a glimpse of a book that I'm working on. My theory involves two types of people. So in every argument, just about every argument, there are two parties. There are only two parties. The victim or you're the victimizer. All right? Listen to this. This is your coach's theory. When there's conflict, an argument is what we're talking about specifically. There are only two people, the victim and the victimizer. But what tends to happen is that the victim becomes the victimizer. And the roles constantly reverse, and you end up stuck in the mud. So I use this illustration of people throwing darts, right? You're throwing darts. So what happens is, as I give you this illustration, what happens is the victimizer throws the dart at the victim. The victim is hit by the dart, and as a result of being hit by the dart, they throw darts back. Okay? And then when the victimizer becomes the victim is hit with the dart, and the victim throws the dart back, which in that case, the victim becomes the victimizer. So you have a bunch of darts being thrown, right? Instead of the victim taking his or her place and just making sure that they are defensive enough in a healthy way to block the darts and to avoid being hit and not feeding into the constant throwing of darts, getting out of range of the darts is what could happen. you know, distancing yourself just enough so that you're not hit by the darts. Because what happens is when we start to, as victims, when we start to uh, accept our role, right, as a victim without becoming a victimizer, then we take a position of humility. And instead of throwing darts that hurt people, we just kill them with kindness. We just love. We love in a safe way, not in a way that will enable you to continue to throw darts. But we build a heart for we build what I call an empathetic heart. Because if they're throwing darts at us, it's probably because of their own mess, not because of us. Right? So I'm giving you a little bit of my theory, but let me tie it back into what we're discussing. So it's okay to be silent if you are the victim and you're processing what's going on and you're trying to figure out how to respond with love and kindness without allowing yourself to constantly be affected by the darts, getting yourself out of range. That's one thing. I'm not talking about that. The situation that I'm talking about, that I'm shedding light on, is my wife at the time was the victim. And I was the victimizer in my silence towards her. No matter how much she wanted to talk to me, no matter how much she wanted to get to the root of things, I distanced myself because I was toxic. And I moved myself to the basement. And as I said last time, I could be there for days, hours, days, weeks, or months where there was no conversation at all. And I'm just passing right by her. And I'm saying, hey, just let me be who I am. This is just who I am. Accept me for who I am. And I'll be back to you when I'm ready to talk. Dishing out more emotional abuse to her. Hence the reason why that relationship and marriage didn't work. So what I'm saying to you is the hard question that she asked me was, why are you like this? Why won't you just talk? What's going on with you? I don't understand why, as a grown man, you're not using your words. I don't understand why we can't just get over this and talk it through. And I'm like a stone. Wouldn't say anything. Just act like I didn't even hear what she was saying. That's not cool. So that was a hard question that she asked me that I didn't wrestle with in the moment. I wrestled with it after the relationship ended, the marriage ended. And I said, why am I like that? That's actually a good question. So today's topic, and we're going to take our time with this, so we're not going to get through all of it, is self-awareness. Are you aware of why you are the way you are? So for me, as I shared last week, I discovered when I did my own self-examination, which is another thing that we'll talk about probably before we end the day, that the reason why I was that way was linked back to my consistent discipline or disciplinary measures that my mom rendered to me in my childhood. That quietness as an adult that destroyed my marriage at that time was because of a consistent pattern that shaped my foundation. Listen to what I'm saying to y'all. It shaped my foundation and my identity. It taught me when my mother said, hey, and it doesn't sound harsh, and I'm sure her heart was in the right place because my mind was trying to move as I got older. My mind was trying to move from the belt to something that would be as intense, that would warrant some kind of repentance without being physical. So for her, sending me to my room and stripping me of my television, my game system, my radio, my telephone was her way, her alternative form of discipline that she stuck to for a very long time. But what happened was it forced me to deal with my emotions in isolation. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? So as an adult, I grow up in age, but not in maturity. So I'm in this relationship now, right, at that particular time. And although I present as an adult, emotionally, I was the kid in the room. Anytime I got frustrated, anytime I got annoyed, anytime I was irritated, and I isolated myself down in that dungeon or that, you know, as you say, the man cave. I was down there destroying my relationship. But I didn't know that until self examination. She asked me the hard question, which is what I posed to you guys. Which hard questions were you asked that provoke more self awareness on your part? Now, I said this in prior episodes. I said this in prior classes. Relationships expose your weakness as a man, as a woman. Your relationship, depending on how long you're in it, will expose your weaknesses. So if you have, all that to say, if you have to think back to some relationship that you were in, if you're not currently in a long-term relationship, think back of the longer term relationship that you've had. And think about the hard questions that made you uncomfortable about your character. Whatever that question was for you, did it provoke more self-awareness on your part? Did it expose a part of you that you really don't like at the end of the day? When you look in the mirror, and or what are the parts of who you are that you know has to change? And are you willing to do the work to change it so that you can be better for yourself and for people around you? That's the question. That's the question. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing for a minute and I'm going to go to our article of the day. But before I do that, let me close some of these windows up here. I don't need this one. We covered that already. All right, because I have a tendency of leaving all these windows up. I'll close this one. All right, let me share my screen. I closed too much. All right, let me see if I can pull this back up. Self-awareness. All right, let me pull this article back up. Self-awareness. And those of you that know me, you know I'm a huge fan of Psychology Today. If you ever listen in to some of classes and you want to know if you want me to send you a few articles, I can do that. Let me know. I got you. All right, now I got to go back to, bear with me 1 second. Because now I'm going to go back to, I don't need that. Let me see. Let me go. All right, here we go. Because I want to pull up this exact article. All right, this article is called What is Self-Awareness and How Do I Get It? What is self-awareness and how do I get it? All right, here we go. All right, I'm going to share my screen in a minute. I don't think I need this anymore. So let me close this window. What is self-awareness and how do I get it? This is by Dr. I think her first name is pronounced Tiki Davis. All right. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to close this window. I don't think I need this anymore. All right. All right, here we go. Screen share. Let's pick this article apart. And we're going to take our time with this. What is self-awareness and how do I get it? 11 ways to achieve greater self-awareness. She begins by saying self-awareness involves monitoring our stress, thoughts, emotions, and beliefs. Keyword, monitoring our stress, thoughts, emotions, and beliefs. All right. It is important because it's a major mechanism influencing what? Personal development. All right. She says, after spending the last year researching and writing my book titled Outsmart Your Smartphone, I've learned that our lives can get out of control pretty fast if we are unaware of how and under what circumstances our emotional nature is triggered. For example, we might not realize how much social media upsets us. So let's talk about that for a minute. Not necessarily, and I'm going to highlight this, not necessarily social media, but how much anything upsets you. I'll share with you guys another story, right? Not necessarily a story, but I'll say, for me, I know that if I listen to a certain amount, a certain type of music, if I get in the mode where I'm listening to hardcore rap music, let's say I'm about to work out. Let's say, if you know me, you know I'm a runner. So it's nothing to do 7 to 9 and 10 miles, right? 12 miles. Let's say if I get in the mode where I listen, I want some motivation, external motivation. So I'm listening to this hardcore rap music that's talking about shooting and killing and doing this and doing that, doing this and doing that. And the beat is nice, right? If I'm listening to that and I'm driven by that, what I've discovered about myself, I don't know about you, but what I discovered about myself is that when I listen to that for long periods of time, and I'm not talking about just on a run, like I'm jogging. I'm talking about if I jog today, if I hit the bag tomorrow, if I just go out and do a series of pull-ups and push-ups and dips and all that. If I'm working out over the course of 4 or 5 days, and I'm consistently listening to that music, what I learned about myself is that it will impact my thoughts, and it will have me looking at things from the lens of the music that I listen to. And if you know me, you know I'm not a man to curse. But I will tell you that listening to that music over a long period of time or extensive periods will cause me to slip up every now and again. So when we talk about self-awareness and we're talking about things upsetting us, as you do your self-examination, I want you to identify the things that upset you. I'll give you another example. If I continue to watch things like the first 48, uh, you know, whatever. If I'm continuing to watch a lot of programs about killings and shootings and robberies and things like that, it will have me a little annoyed. It'll have me a little paranoid. It'll have me thinking about family members that may not be doing as well. It may have me wondering about, like, you know, who's going to go next in my family or in my peer circle. So we're talking about self-awareness and being aware enough to know the things that impact your thoughts and your emotions and your beliefs. You have to be aware of that. You got to be aware. And I said this on prior lessons as well. Soul food is not chicken and watermelon and all of that stuff. Greens and collard greens and cabbage. Soul food is what you feed your soul, the part of you that we can't see. And you do that by who and what you watch, who and what you listen to, and what you read. That's real soul food. So if you want to become more self-aware, you have to look at things like, how does what I indulge in impact my thoughts and my emotions? And if in fact those things impact your emotions negatively and your thoughts negatively, then look, you gotta taper them off. You have to stop that, whatever that is, and start something different. Because if nothing changes, nothing changes. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? So you gotta, in order to become more self-aware, you have to keep those things in mind. All right, but let's move on. How do we increase self-awareness? She says self-awareness requires self-examination. Self-awareness requires self-examination. Be aware, though, that an honest, non-judgmental self-analysis isn't easy. We tend to berate ourselves for our failings or fantasize about how great we are when neither is actually the case. We all have a unique mix of good and bad traits, but we are largely unaware of them. In order to self-reflect objectively, and that's the key, we need to quiet our minds and open our hearts, forgiving ourselves for our imperfections and offering ourselves kudos, but only where we deserve them. All right? Hold on one second. Plug this up so my computer don't die on y'all. All right. It says she says, increasing self-awareness of false attitudes or inappropriate behaviors requires peace, time, attention, and focus. Knowing ahead of time that we can indeed change our positive ways through deeper self-awareness makes it worth working on those personal qualities we most value. But first, we must look within ourselves through self-examination to see what's there, which is often less obvious than we think. All right? So why does self-awareness matter? Why does self-awareness matter? High self-awareness is a solid predictor of good success in life. Perhaps because a self-aware person knows when the opportunity is a good fit for them and how to make an appropriate enterprise work well. Quite frankly, most of us are running on autopilot, hardly aware of why we succeed or fail, or why we behave as we do. Our minds are so busy with daily chatter that we usually only self reflect when something goes awfully wrong. Is that right? You only self reflect when things go wrong. Some people don't self reflect at all. How's that? And how is that working for you? Shout out to Dr. Phil. If you don't self reflect at all. So here's the question that I asked as I gave the example earlier about myself, because I always start with me. Why do you behave the way you do? Why? Why do you behave the way you do? Now, I want you to think about the parts of you that, as the Bible says, where there are 2 or 3 witnesses, every word will be established. Think about some things that 2 or 3 people have said about you, and maybe they don't even know each other, but they all have said the same thing about your character. And they've asked you maybe some uncomfortable questions about your character. And whatever that is for you, my question to you is, why are you like that? And you're probably going to have to, or not probably, you're going to have to dig back. You're going to have to do some digging into your foundation. The people who raised you, the people that you were around the most, your village. And think about all the behaviors that you learned from your village. And then you could probably start there. Because you, me, all of us, we take the good, the bad, and the ugly from our parents. Yes, we do. So in order to do that work, that's what coaches is for. So my objective is to, pour into you coaches and let you know that, hey, if you haven't assisted your clients with helping them to establish a better relationship with themselves, then I'm giving you a bone. Start with self-awareness drills. And in fact, if you're on today and you want to become a coach, or if you're a client that wants to be coached, I will offer you one free coaching session. Send me a DM. If you're struggling with self-examination and you want to get to the root of why you are the way you are in your behavior, I'll offer you one free coaching session. Shoot me a DM and say, Coach, I need your help. All right? So, moving along in the article, how do we build self-awareness? How do we build self-awareness? Here are some suggestions, right, to start building self-awareness. Number 1, walking, especially in the quiet of nature, can be useful in building self-awareness. The mind tends to wander along with our feet, so with a little conscious nudging and walking, we can examine our part in something that is happening in our lives now, at work, in social situations, in our relationships, or within the family. So walking in nature. And again, you're going to hear some things that I want you to consider doing by yourself. Doesn't count if you're doing it with somebody else. This is about you having a better relationship with you. There is no relationship more important than your relationship with you outside of your relationship with God. You are first after Him. Number two, practicing mindfulness can increase self awareness. Mindfulness is similar to self awareness in that they both relate to consciously directing our thoughts inward in order to become more aware of our inner state of being, to observe our thoughts and beliefs, and to notice what triggers our emotions as they rise and fall. Mindfulness includes focused attention in the moment to whatever one is doing and involves practicing or practices such as meditation or a quieting of the mind. I'll give you one better than that. How many people can stay still for 30 minutes? 30 minutes. Pardon. 30 seconds. Just being completely still and just not moving at all for 30 seconds. Because I'm a firm believer that if you can control the little things in your life, you will have better control over the big things in life. Just being still. I remember my great grandmother, bless her soul, back in the day. The first thing we did, if you're a 70s baby like me, the first thing we did after we came in the house from play was to sit our hind parts down on that couch and be still. We could not move for a time period. I don't know if great grandma knew this intentionally, what she was doing, but these are little exercises that she was helping us with, whether she knew it or not, how impactful it would be for us long term. Just to learn to be disciplined enough. Can you discipline yourself enough for 30 seconds to be completely still? Check that out. Control the little things, and controlling the big things will be a lot easier. Number three, becoming a good listener can increase self-awareness. Becoming a good listener can increase self-awareness. Getting out of ourselves by focusing on another person is a good antidote to stop downward spirals of self-destructive thinking. By being open to someone else, we can learn to listen objectively, even lovingly, to what that person wants or needs to share. This, in turn, helps teach us how to listen to our inner dialogues and opinions objectively and lovingly as well. I actually like this one, becoming a good listener. Another way that you can stop your downward spirals, and I was just having this conversation with my daughter and my wife, I call it changing the channel. If you find yourself by yourself or at any point and you're going down, I mean, you're becoming more and more frustrated. You're becoming more and more angry, more and more upset, or you're becoming more and more sad. You're becoming more and more depressed. Change the channel. That's what I said. Change the channel. Check this out, right? And let me expound on that a little more for you. You ever watch? We talk about some of the things that we watch and how it affects us emotionally, or it affects us, affects our thoughts, right? I'm not as much of a. I'm using this as an example. I'm not as much as a. I'll say this. This came on my mind. I used to binge on Saw movies. because I like the mystery. I like the wow factor in trying to figure out whether a character is going to be able to escape and things of that nature. I used to watch. They have a movie called Escape Room, right? So those kind of mysteries. Um, and when I would watch it, depending on what app you have, with some apps you purchase the app without commercials, and it'll go all the way through, and of course it'll cost you more money. But some of them you can buy without the commercials for less money. So, for example, if you're watching a movie and you get so engulfed in the movie, and it doesn't have to be a horror movie necessarily, it can just be a suspense movie, or it can be a deep romantic type movie where your emotions are overwhelmed and you become one of the characters, right? So imagine or think back on times where you've been that engulfed in things that you're watching. And then a commercial comes on. And automatically your mind goes, you can go from watching something that you're so engulfed in, right? And then a commercial comes on and it turns off because the commercial is not about what you were watching. The context is different, the energy is different, the spirit of that particular whatever you're watching is different. And I'm using that as an example to say when you find yourself going down a spiral of sadness or depression or anger or frustration or irritation, change the channel. And this is something that you have to practice. You have to focus your attention on something different in that moment. And if you master the little things, the big things are going to become easier for you to master. So when you are embarked upon this self-awareness journey and you're trying to figure out why you are the way you are, and then your attitude and energy is impacted by what you watch, what you listen to, what you read, and you go down this downward spiral, change the channel. Practice doing that over and over again, changing the channel. All right? So I just wanted to give you that bone. Number 4, becoming more self-aware can uh, becoming more self-aware can be quite enlightening. Becoming more self-aware can be quite enlightening. There is so much we don't know about our inner thoughts and processes that the inward journey at times can be surprising. Sometimes certain phrases come out automatically to reveal attitudes or opinions that we don't even realize we subscribe to or even know where they came from. Over the years of being submerged in a family, a school, various jobs, and a social milieu, we absorb prevailing ideas from our environment, and some of these get buried in our subconscious, where they often don't get examined until we inadvertently blurt them out, at times to our own embarrassment. This is one good reason why it behooves us to become more self aware, to learn how to be ourselves, and to feel more confident that the ideas we are expressing are really our own and not somebody else's. All right. So as you become more self aware, you become more enlightened. All right, I'll give you one more, maybe two. Let's see what time does for us. Self awareness, number 5, can open your mind to new perspectives. Self awareness can open your mind to new perspectives. We each tend to have different perspectives on a variety of topics, But as we develop these perspectives, we develop our self-concept, get comfortable with ourselves, and have a preference for our own opinions. However, limited perspectives lead to limited thinking. So, by being open to the views of others, we can expand our perspectives to be more universally inclusive. New ideas are refreshing and stimulating, opening our thinking in new and possibly promising directions, perhaps helping us to self actualize. Open mindedness is definitely a plus in being successful at dealing with life's challenges and diverse situations. All right. I don't want to rush this because I do have more that I want to share, but I think I'm gonna stop right here. We're gonna stop at 8:52. Are there any questions, comments, concerns, or thoughts? Anybody want to jump on and chime in for a minute? Let me know. Definitely appreciate you guys checking in. Uh, so yeah, we're gonna end off on point 5 and come back next week with point number 6. Self-awareness is connected to self-esteem. This is a real good one. Self-awareness is connected to self-esteem. All right. So I'm going to stop right there. Any questions, comments, concerns, or thoughts before we jump off of here today? This was good. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Because I'm going to tell you, even as I prepare this and prepare for this, it's for me first. It's for me first. And the beautiful thing is that we all are growing together as we participate. All right. So I hope you learned something today that will help you on your journey if you are a coach. I hope you learned something that you can pour into your clients. And if you are a client that wants to become coached, give me a shout. Again, I'm offering one free coaching session. You shoot me a DM so we can explore self-awareness, self-examination, and why you are the way you are. All right. So TikTok, again, salute. Thank you, and I appreciate everybody for checking in. I'm so humble. It's Coach White signing off. See you guys next week. Peace.